I'm late to my own meetup game. Come on. My own meetup game. Can you believe that? What kind of jerk shows up late to his own game? Such an idiot. Alright, let's just go. Looks like we're only going to be about 5 or 10 minutes late, but the requests for, you know, where we're meeting up and stuff are rolling in. My phone's basically blowing up, so it's awesome to see. Pretty excited to get going and meet up with everybody. So let's get to it and have ourselves a meetup game. All right, so we're chopping, right? You want your cameo? We're chopping? You chopped? Okay.
You already chopped?
Had to do it.
There you go. That's why I said, that's all the last thing.
Pop before I could even go
I'll pay the seat.
It's too good. TJ's too good.
$1? $1's not enough. What do you want? 25.
25?
Pure solid with my phone and record it.
6, straddle.
I don't believe it.
You don't believe that it's a straddle? It's the dealer's job to tell you what it is.
I don't believe her. That's the only reason why I'm telling. Come on, dealer.
Oh, get ready.
Oh, yeah?
15? That's what's in my hand, so there you go. There's only 30 in my hand now. Is that 30?
35.
Oh my god. That's the wrong amount though.
He's gonna keep you good. He's scared! Good!
Scared with a gut shot.
I'll wait $15.
What's
Right
it?
back. I'm blind stealing.
I guess.
I mean, it's more, like, it's not all poker.
Oh yeah.
That's a good word to hear.
Oh yeah. It's just, this is probably just gonna be B-roll because I'm not really taking a lot of notes right now.
Because I saw you and I was like, how the hell does he memorize all
No, I take a lot of notes. Tash! That's up to me? Man.
This is what you want to do.
Oh my god.
It's up to you if you like money or not. I had to do it on you.
It wasn't coming. Rabbit hunt? So, played a meetup game. It was a while ago. I know you guys have been asking for this video for a while, and I know I've been behind. We are catching up. I promise we're catching up. It's just a little bit slow. So we are going to talk about some of the hands from this meetup game, but first of all, just have to give a giant shout out to Maryland Live. As always, awesome hosts, awesome dealing, awesome floor staff. Huge shout out to Jason Heidenthal, the tournament director, who has been kind of the primary guy who's helped me organize and helped me coordinate this, including getting some awesome hotel rooms for people who wanted to stay overnight for the meetup game. So huge shout out again also to everybody who just came to the meetup. Everyone had fun, everyone had a blast, but I also know some guys came pretty far. There's one gentleman who drove like 5 hours. He said his closest places to play are, let's see, what did he say? I don't remember, but basically the closest spot was either here, which was like 5 hours, or another spot that was like 4 hours away. I want to say, what was it? They do like a really big WSOP circuit stop there. Maybe it'll come to me. I don't know. Anyway, point being, some people came pretty far. There were a few people in the like 2 to 3 hour driving range. So huge shout out to everyone for coming out to hang out. It was a blast. As always with these meetup games, I try to keep them inclusive. So we played some 1-3 no limit. It's a $400 cap, minimum $100. But when you find at these meetup games, there's generally a little bit more action. There's a little more people buying in than a typical game, and the action's generally pretty good. We had some bomb pots going on dealer changes, but we kept them pretty reasonable with like $5 each. And if you don't know what a bomb pot is, it just means that everyone puts in the same amount pre-flop, blind before the cards come out. The cards get dealt, and then we all go straight to the flop with our hands, and then action continues as normal from there. So, a lot of fun, but as always, we want to get into some poker hands here. So this first hand, I've got about $400 in my stack, and the cutoff opens to $15. The button calls, and I'm in the big blind with Queen 9 offsuit. Definitely not a mandatory call here, but it's not like gigantic sizing, and I am here for a meetup game. I'm going to splash around a little bit. I make the call. The flop ends up coming Queen 8-6 with 2 hearts, and checks all the way to the button, who bets $30. I put in the call, and the cutoff makes it $110. Pretty awkward spot. The button folds, and I think we have 2 options here, obviously, shove or fold. I don't think calling makes any sense. He actually only has $185 behind, so his raise definitely looks like it's committing him, but at the same time, I think there are some draws that would play this way, and I thought it was very unlikely he would check raise like a strong top pair type hand. So I do just make a little bit of a loose jam here, and we get snapped, which is generally not great. But he has aces, and the turn is a 7 of clubs, river, 9 of clubs. Yeesh. And we pull victory from the jaws of defeat there. Pretty fortunate run out. Definitely don't think I need to be jamming here. I think it's pretty fine to just fold. Call with some of my, or not call, but get it in with some of my strongest draws, sets, and I probably have at least some 2-pair combos that I can call with as well. So anyway, on to the next hand. We've since dusted some off in like small raise fold spot situations. So we've got ace king offsuit in middle position and bump it up to $15. The big blind calls and we go heads up to 5-4-4 with 2 clubs. He checks, and I decided to just check it back. Have a decent amount of showdown value here. The turn is a 5, and the big blind bets $30. I call, and the river is a queen. He bets 75 now, and yeah, there's stuff that we lose to, but I felt like pocket pairs were the only really likely holdings we lost to, and there's a ton of like draws and just weird stuff that we beat. So I call, and he shows down the 8-7 of diamonds, so we get to take down another one there. So this next hand is a bomb pot. We each put in $10. I've got about $600 in my stack now, and we all go to the flop, so 9 ways to the flop for $5 each. The flop is 10-7 deuce with 2 clubs, and I look down at the sort of deceptive 4-3 of clubs. Checks to me in middle position, and I decide to put out a bet here. I think that at least some of the time I'll just be able to take it down. I might be able to barrel it down and take it down on some runouts, so put in $30 bet. The hijack and the button both call, so we're going 3 ways to a turn now. And a turn is sort of a weird card. It's a deuce of clubs. The reason why I say 4-3 of clubs is sort of deceptive, especially in a bomb pot, is that every single suited combination of hands is in every single person's range. So when we put out a bet on a flush draw board and we have the nut low flush draw, well, on the turn, turns out we have the nut low flush draw, it's pretty likely that someone has us beat. It's possible they both just have top pair. It's possible that somebody's got a weird 2-pair, since all of those combos are available too. But I think we'd see raises from a lot of the 2-pair hands on the flop. And so I think this weighs us a lot more toward, you know, a lot of flushes and a lot of like weaker hands, like just 1-pair hands that are technically 2-pair now. So I didn't feel confident in betting. I check, and when the hijack bet's $45 and the button folds, I think at this sizing we definitely have to call. I'm not really going anywhere yet, but I'm not super excited about it. So the river is a 4 of diamonds. I check, and the hijack now bets $75. I tank because I think a flush is going to be pretty hard to fold, but at the end of the day, everything I just said about the turn applies even more so on the river, and I think with these sizings, he's probably trying to just sucker me into a call pretty often. So I do ultimately just fold, and he shows us pocket tens for top boat. So kind of got away losing the absolute minimum there, I think. Pretty lucky that the run out was exactly as it was and that we had such a low flush here. If I have like a much higher flush, this hand changes completely, and I'm definitely not going anywhere and probably lose a lot more money. Now, at these meetup games, it's always a weird balance for me because I want to create a good vlog out of it. I want to kind of be able to recap it for you guys, for all the viewers, but ultimately I'm mostly there to hang out with the folks who came in. So I don't take note of every hand. I'm not able to take every hand down. So just know that there's a lot of hands going on in between this. We're already like 4 or 5 hours into this meetup game, I would say. And, you know, I'm actually stuck a fair bit. You've seen me win several hands and lose a couple hands, but I'm in the game for probably around 1100. Anyway, at this point, I think I've just lost a pretty small pot and end up opening King Jack of Diamonds off of a $350 stack under the gun to $15. The big blind is the only caller, and the flop is Jack 5-4 with 2 clubs, and he leads out for 20, which is definitely a little bit weird, but not exactly sure what he'd do this with, so I'm definitely not going anywhere just yet with top pair. I make the call. The turn is a 9 of clubs, which is not great. It does improve Jack 9 to 2 pair. It brings in flushes, but the big blind leads 40, and I think he could still be leading with like a worse Jack sometimes, so I decide to make the call once again. The river is the 8 of diamonds, which brings in 6-7. Brings in some like weird bluffs that he might have had, like Queen 10, that are now straights. So when he bets $75, I just don't think he has weird lead triple barrel bluffs here. I don't think that he's value betting Queen Jack. I just decided to let it go, and he shows us 8-7 of clubs for a turn flush. So he does get a little bit lucky there on the turn, but continues betting for value, so well done there. But we're able to get away again here for fairly cheap, I guess. This next hand is kind of the biggest of the session, and really kind of defined the session for me. Again, we're in for about 1100 right now, sitting on $700 though, so we're kind of sitting pretty at this point. Like, I think I was probably stuck, you know, 800 or 900 at my peak, and then you know, chipped it back up to $700, so not doing too badly. So like I said, the meetup games are always pretty good action. This one's no different. There's been a decent amount of straddling going around, so I'm actually in the straddle in this hand. Under the gun opens to 20. Some jerk in the big blind named Poker Ray. He's not a jerk. He's got a poker vlog. You should check it out. Poker Ray should be enough to find him. Anyway, he 3-bets to $55, and I actually wake up with queens in the straddle here. Now, this is not as slam dunk of a situation as certain spots at 1-3 normally would be. This is actually probably one of the tougher lineups I've seen in a meetup game, and people are playing pretty well for the most part. I also think that with the positions involved, it's going to be kind of awkward to play queens here. It's already been 3-bet. The original opener was under the gun, and the 3-better is out of position, so I don't expect him to be getting like super out of line. That being said, we do have queens. I do have, you know, one of the best 3 hands ever made, and I'm going to 4-bet here. I don't love it. This is probably the bottom of my 4-betting range, which is always super awkward. I might sometimes have like an ace-5 suited here tossed in as a bluff to balance a little bit against better players, but for the most part, this is the worst hand I'm going to 4-bet, as awkward as that is. But I do toss in the 4-bet to $135, absolutely cold. Under the gun folds, and that big blind makes the call. So definitely good to see him just call. If he 5-bets, I would be very unhappy. He just ends up calling, so we go heads up to the flop, and the flop alleviates some of my concerns. It comes out ace queen 5 with 2 diamonds. He checks. I definitely think a bet is in order here. A big part of his range should be ace king on this exact board, and when we have queens, we don't block that at all, so it's a pretty good spot for us. I decide to bet $125, and he makes the call. The turn is a pretty interesting card, I think. It's a jack. Now, when he just calls the flop, and when we're in a 4-bet pot here, ace king is out there for sure, but I also think there's a possibility he's slow playing aces. I think there's a possibility he has kings here sometimes, and ace king's probably the only hand that we beat that we get value from. So I felt very weird on the turn, because even though ace king's out there, I wasn't really positive if I was going to be able to get value from it or not. That sounds so crazy. I don't think he is really folding, and I was kind of starting to feel monsters under the bed at this point. I've definitely kind of been skittish. I've been losing most of my cash sessions, but at the end of the day, I've got queens, and there's like $1 billion in the pot. I mean, there's not $1 billion, but the pot's pretty big, basically. And so at this point, I just decided that a jam was appropriate. The nice thing about the jack on the turn is that if he's ever holding on with jacks at this point in the hand, he's probably just folding the flop. But if he ever makes it to the turn with jacks, we beat that, and it will give us action. So it does put a few more combos in there that we can beat. There's very few combos that beat us. It's basically just aces. I don't expect to see him in the mix there with the king 10 often, if ever. And if he does have it, it's probably only the king 10 of diamonds specifically. So I still think it's probably a mandatory jam, but I didn't feel great about it. I ended up jamming. I got snapped. I asked if he had aces. He said yes. I don't remember what the river was. It was a total brick. And we get stacked there for pretty much like a $1,500 pot at 1-3. So it's frustrating. It's frustrating to have a meetup game where you're trying to have fun, you're trying to have an enjoyable time, and then you just get murdered. I mean, that's the biggest pot I've lost at 1-3 in probably like, I don't know, 6 months, something like that. And I haven't won a pot that big at 1-3. I want to say in like a year and a half or like 2 years. I mean, it's been a long time since I've played a pot like that and been on the right side of it. So a frustrating kind of wrap up to the session there. Pretty much closed down the night after that. It's just really difficult to sort of stay sort of, I mean, obviously I wasn't upset with Ray. We both played the hand standard, and if I'm going to lose that hand to anybody, you know, I would definitely prefer it to be at a meetup game than not. But ultimately, it's hard to kind of enjoy the rest of the evening when you're in for 1,100 already and you get stacked, and I was going to have to buy in for another 400, so wasn't really feeling it, and we'd already been there for like hours and hours, 2 full tables, so just decided to kind of wrap it up there. So had a great time despite the loss. At the end of the day, being in for 1,100 and out for 0 with some of the hands that I ran into was not so bad. There were a couple other coolers that I kind of vaguely remember, but I don't remember enough of the details to go over them. So yeah, you know, what else is there to say? I've been running like God in meetup games ever since I went to them. This is my first big loss at a meetup game, so can't really complain too much. Had a blast with everyone there. Thanks again to everyone for coming, and thanks again to Maryland Live for hosting. Remember, if you like this video, hit the thumbs up button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, turn on notifications, that way you'll know when I put out new content. Share this video with your friends. I'm trying to get back in the swing of vlogging, but you know, it's hard when you stagnate. It's hard to kind of pick it back up and keep going. So sharing it is probably the #1 way that kind of helps me, helps this vlog keep growing. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Hopefully the next meetup game will be just as fun, but won't have to like bleed me out quite as much. So I'll give you guys details when I have that, and I'll see you next time. Give a little shout out here. I'm gonna stand right here so this doesn't go. Focus. Focus.
Going on.
Why wouldn't you just use your phone though? Like, what do you mean? Why would you use that camera? Like,
That's a really nice camera though.
Hey, don't hate. All right, you're getting a shout out and he's hating on my camera.
Hey guys.
We got Ray, Poker Ray, and Gage Ely, 2 guys who are vlogging. They're local. Check them out. Had a good meetup game today. Some of us had better nights than others, but it was a lot of fun.
Run better
next time. Right, hey, it had to even out. So, all right, nice to have you.
Yes.
And see you sometime soon.
Yeah, take care.
Later.
All right, Rick.
See you.